Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a fantastic, phenomenal day. We're taking a quick look here at the altcoin season index, extremely important index to understand. Obviously a market overview. We're going to talk about the back-end liquidation data too here for these top favorite coins that we cover, ETH, Bitcoin, Solana, and SUI. And then we're also going to discuss a little bit about the extremely important bull pennant pattern breakout from XRP. Chop SUI, or FSUI as our community likes to say, with that $4 resistance wall. And then the same thing as well too for Solana breaking through its macro resistance at 185, potential retest there. And obviously Ethereum, just no F's given, running straight to the metaphorical moon. So looking pretty solid here in the overall sentiment there, but we want to make sure we're not just blindly taking long positions. While generally speaking, that's a favorable consideration right now. There are some important things to factor in with Bitcoin dominance, which we'll talk about here in a second. So starting off with some fundamentals, this is compliments of Mr. Anderson, one of our esteemed admins in our community. Thank you again for the awesome content. We see Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow, so expect some volatility there. We do have house sales data on Wednesday, and then of course Thursday's PMI, and just generally speaking, we have a lot of reported earnings this week. About 15% of the S&P 500 is reporting earnings, so that's a big deal. Last but not least, too, quick congrats and kudos to our community for some nice profits there. We squeezed out 92% profit in less than 48 hours for Caspa. That was an awesome trade there. Granted, I wish in hindsight we had taken more trades, but that's how it goes right now, folks. A lot of situations where you're just going to wish you'd done X, Y, Z, but didn't. But generally speaking, best not to overdo it. Over trading is a significant problem. People get absolutely destroyed doing that. So anyways, let's talk about crypto market overview. Kind of start here at this point. For starters, the last 1 year, or we can even just do all time. This is basically the last month of in June. July hasn't even posted yet. We have the most amount of ETF inflows for Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you look at this most recent week, the largest amount of ETF inflows last year. And obviously, it just continues to go on as well. So bear in mind, this is delayed data. We don't have anything from today or Friday yet, but it is essentially an indication of strength in the market. Speaking of strength in the market, take a look at this here. 56 is the altcoin season index number. And this number is just kind of a reflection of how well Bitcoin or coins doing versus Bitcoin. Altcoin dominance as well as market cap. We can see we're upwards about 1.6 trillion in market cap here as of today. And just looking very strong. I mean, last week we saw a 32 from altcoin index. That's basically just telling us that we had a monumentally strong week. What follows a very strong week? Typically some kind of pullback. I don't propose it's going to be super strong, but I do think local highs will be retested from a lot of coins. So that's why we're going to be paying attention to retracement areas here today, not just fib levels, but areas of confluence. Because once more, trading only fib levels is pretty stupid. I'm sorry, that came across as mean. But the truth is, those Elliott wave theorists, and they're always right because they give you 50 different scenarios. But you want to focus on the ones that have more consistency. There's like when more things add up to one little area, then it's more consistent. We'll talk about that here. Anyways, now we've got a good foundation of what's going on. Let's start with Ethereum, and obviously just kind of recognize the CME futures for Ethereum. We can see here 3620 to 3700 is that area of local CME gap. Basically, Friday closed at 3620 and effectively wicked down on Sunday with the market open roughly at about 3700. So that's just kind of a gap that could get filled. It's proven at this point, looking at the previous one down as low as 2900, that they don't always get filled, right? So don't bet on this. But if I were a betting man, that $3,700 support range, that previous high, would likely be a retest before the next leg up. That's just a consideration. We're already halfway there. We're at 3770. So that's good news there for Ethereum. Let's go ahead and jump into the backend data for ETH and see what's going on. First and foremost, if you didn't see my playout chart on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, you'll see here that there's some significant amount of open interest at 3750 and respectively 3650 as well. So those are the two kind of areas of consideration there for DCA targets, but we do see a lot of volume at 3750, so that kind of reinforces support there. That'll probably be the initial support range. Overall, liquidation delta is super high. We don't want to bet against that, even though the price action should pull back for ETH. Probably not the best recommendation to consider, taking a short position. Now, we do have a short position open with at 3,700. That's our average entry for ETH. In hindsight, I'm looking to honestly close it here soon, just to kind of get out of that potentially upside down trade, right? It's a good offset, of course, if the price does pull back, but once more, it's not really worth taking a trade on at this point. Keep in mind, we took that trade a couple of days ago. All that being said, at this point, 3,900 is that upper area of liquidation. And if we do take a look at the charts, we can understand here from a macro perspective, a little bit larger, that we are looking at some confluence, or actually more important, just an area of Fibonacci retracement at 3,500. Close approximate. There's not a lot of confirming factors telling us that level is going to hold, though. Keep in mind, we're massively overextended. We are now 6 days of continuation past an overextended state. So in all reality, the price should pull back, but according to all the metrics here that we see on the charts, there's nothing telling us it's going to, right? Just know what goes up must come down. If the price does pull back, we get lucky. 3,100 would be the better case scenario for a retracement. So just kind of where we're at, but natural continuation patterns, folks, they usually do pull back significantly in these regards before the next leg up. So I am expecting 3,100 to 3,500 as a potential reality for us, but that's just me having a lofty goal and being one of those optimistic and or hopeful persons that waits for entries that don't happen. Right? I'm known for that, and that's perfectly fine. I don't mind missing opportunities, but for the most part, right now, you're better off averaging in as the price goes down, instead of trying to catch those magnificent, wonderful dips that never seem to happen. So, friendly advice: average into your position on the way down is the best way to go. That's how we've been maximizing our benefit on our long positions. So it's just kind of a good consideration. All right, that's Ethereum in a nutshell. There's no reason to go into lower timeframes. There's no hidden bearish divergence that a lot of people, I'm sure, are probably going to tell you. We could reach and we could stretch and tell you that there's going to be a pullback, but there's nothing telling me here, obviously, without looking at the 5-minute chart or under, that we're going to be continuing lower. Okay, just know areas of interest: 3650, 3750, based on open interest, and that local high effectively potentially retested as a new low. All right, let's move on to Solana. Back-end data for Solana is the following. So you're going to look at open interest, 185, big surprise, previous high. That's that macro resistance, turn support, or should be support if it's retested at 185, as low as 177. So that's kind of that little support range for us. We take a look at liquidation short delta versus long delta. There's $5 billion more in long delta versus shorts, or just $5 billion more in longs versus shorts. All that said, that's a heck of a lot, letting us know that shorting this coin is a bad idea. If you do short, just watch it close. Make sure you adjust your stop loss into profit, because there's no guarantee it's going to continue to run unless Bitcoin really rips down. And Bitcoin's going to have to lose that $116,000 support, or that range of 116 to 120, for us to see that. So if Ethereum, Solana, all these coins I've covered so far are super strong and not worth shorting against. All that said, 185 would be an optimal consideration for entry, because this macro resistance is now a support. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. Overall, a very, very good case scenario there. And if you're not familiar with why I got that, by the way, we had multiple attempts to break below 185 previously, failed, and eventually we retested multiple times to break through. Now that it has, should be the new low moving forward. Okay, that's generally the concept there. And if you haven't been watching me at all, or for a while or whatever, key level supports, areas of confluence, those are things that I like to trade. I don't like to trade these magical fib levels that may or may not happen, right? While they have some consistency, it's ridiculous to try to bet on that, because it's all just kind of hypothetical numbers. What isn't hypothetical is areas that have been tested multiple times and they're retested. Those are areas of support, because people's mindset, they change over time and they adjust. Now people feel like it's a good opportunity to get in at 185, when before it was like, I'm going to sell at 185, right? It's just that whole psychological thing. Other than that, really, just to kind of reinforce, 165 to 168, roughly 170, is a solid support range. There's a fair value gap there too, so if we see that refilled, excellent consideration for a long. But the logical place to take a long right now, or consider a long, is the 185 to 187 range, if that happens. I'm going to set an alert in that area just to get notified in case it comes across. I'm not just going to blindly jump in, but I'm going to try to reevaluate at that time. And actually, correction, I may consider blindly jumping in with a limit order overnight, just based on the simple fact that if that does happen, it would be a nice consideration for a long. And there's tons of missed opportunities right now in the market. It's easy to miss them based on just how fast things are moving. Other than that, we are at an overextended state on the 4-hour time frame. We previously hit that with a period of consolidation. So at this point, it is sensible to expect a pullback, but once more, it's also illogical to consider a pullback or waiting too long for a pullback because generally speaking, they're not happening the way they should. So I think better case scenario, taking along here in the 190s seems like a practical consideration considering how strong this coin is. Just note $200 is that macro resistance range based on psychological resistance. If you're not familiar with this, Bitcoin had the same thing. Most coins do. Large round numbers are areas of support and resistance, based on the simple fact that people have a tendency of wanting to round up and round down. It's just very, very normal. So 100,000 for Bitcoin, 110,000, 90,000, etc. All those numbers are very relevant. Let's take a look here at SUI. We're going to start with the back end for SUI and kind of see where we're at. So $4, $4.10 is that area of open interest. I've reinforced this multiple times. Until we close above $4, I would say, for a solid 24-hour period, we're more likely to go down than up. It's very tentative though. Volume is increasing, and we're starting to see a lot of support in this 390 range too. But the key takeaway here is that liquidation short delta is still high, right? That basically implies more shorts than longs, and taking a long right now into a key level resistance is not necessarily a good idea. Most people are aware that $4 is a proven resistance, so it makes sense that they're shorting. We shorted from $4 to $3.65 late last week, and it worked out very well. Overall though, at this point, we want to recognize too that SUI has a ton of liquidation above and below the price action, okay? But more specifically 410 to 440. So if we do see a push and a squeeze, it's going to push hard and run to probably that 420, 430 mark. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the chart and kind of recognize here this kind of the more macro perspective we saw. Even though we did see a candlestick closure at 410, the general consensus is that this area of $4 to 410 is a consistent area of resistance for us. So that's kind of the resistance range. I'll clean up the charts, post a new playout chart on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, just to kind of give you that representation of where we're at here. But just know until we soundly close above 410, then we're more likely to be held below that level. Keep in mind though, we got a significant amount of volume here locally between $3.90 and $4. The more that volume continues to grow, the more likely we are to stay in this range and go higher. I think we're building a solid foundation. We can also recognize here too, this is kind of, once more, a candlestick pattern that isn't necessarily 100% guarantee, but it is something that you want to recognize here, that we are in a position where we very well may see a cup and handle breakout. Okay, and if you're not familiar, cup and handles, they start with a large retest of the local high, and then they typically flag out on the way down. So if we get lucky, we see a retest of this 360 range. That's a great call for a long, based on it being the local high, but also that descending type of channel. Other than that, really not much else to note. There is some divergences here on the 4-hour and the daily time frame. We got our money flow index below the RSI, but our RSI is holding above our SMA. Those are usually good signs, but once more, early indications of slowing pressure. But I think it's just kind of the calm before the storm. So even though we have a significant resistance at $4, based on what we've identified just now, there's probably more propensity for the price to break out and go higher. However, we have that short liquidation delta is also kind of counteracting it. But that does also increase the odds of a short squeeze. So Bitcoin maintains 118,000 today. I think SUI will probably push towards that 410 to 420, maybe even $430 range. Okay, it's kind of what we're looking at there. It's pretty awesome stuff. Before we move on, I do want to kind of say this is awesome too. Thank you again, BitUnix, for an awesome volume ranking reward this month. If you guys use my link to the register, link down below, you'll always be eligible for future benefits and promotions. These are available every single month. Next month, we're doing a deposit reward bonus. And just future reference, no KYC or VPN. They've been great to us for the last 2 years. We've been using them for a long time. So thank you, BitUnix, for that. And obviously, if you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is the site, link down below. And yeah, I'll be happy to work with you if you want to become a better trader. There is a current promotion going on for the month of July, for our summer sale. So check it out, link down below. Okay, last but not least is probably the most important one, at least highly requested one, is this bull pennant breakout from XRP. So this is something we identified. In fact, this is something that Bitcoin is also showing strength here and the likelihood of a break to the upside because of it. Now, once more, you don't trade patterns alone. And that's not why XRP broke out ahead of time. It's not because some guy drew some lines on a chart and the price breaks out. It just kind of tells us that when you retest certain levels, the price action will kind of start to compress into a range. Breakouts occur there after you break that trend. because once more, longs flip short and shorts flip long, and when that happens, you see a strong, consistent breakout or continuation. The key takeaway here is that volume is remaining super high. Even though we're slightly below our moving average here, it's still much higher than the previous baseline, and that's super important. You don't try to short against high volume. That's kind of the standard foundation. Let's look at the back end liquidation data to kind of see. First of all, 343 to 360 is that upper area of support. So we're building a very strong foundation at 343. Best case scenario, 343 would be a good place to consider a long, or averaging into that as the bottom. The reason why I say that is because that was a previous high, and once more, it's the all-time high depending on the chart you're using. Some people gave me some heat for using a chart that doesn't show the previous like 360 and some change. All-time high, whatever, it doesn't matter. The key takeaway here is a local high was 340. That's where the price action had a lot of resistance. Relevant recent highs are much more significant than previous all-time highs, if you will. Either way, they all kind of work together. We're in that range of 340, 360. The whole point of me mentioning this is that 343, previous high turned into a new low, is working as that solid support. We also have a massive amount of control there based on volume, and I'll show you that in the charts. But we look at liquidation long delta, we're at 3.5 billion. This is rivaling some of the highest we've seen from XRP. And XRP is a very volatile coin. It's an emotional coin because the traders are emotional, right? So while it's all well and good right now to just keep flowing money into it, there will be a point in which it'll bite you in the ass if you're not careful. So try to be careful with that. But the key takeaway here is as long as Bitcoin can maintain its current range and that crypto in general is positive, this coin will continue to do well. There's a ton of people promoting it as well that for the most part don't know very much about trading, but they're really good at kind of pushing and promoting it, and that's kind of what's going on here. So we do see two sides of this. We see the trading side, which is generally there's some good baselines here letting us know we're more likely to continue higher. There's also this unusual like emotionality of this coin that causes unique price movements, okay? So it's really cool, but most of those are based on fundamentals, and we had a really good, strong crypto week last week. If you saw my videos, you'll know. And we're in a position right now where XRP is probably likely to go higher. So my thoughts here, let's take a look at the 4 hour. Let me explain kind of what I mean by this area of support. If you look at the 4 hour time frame, it's a little easier to identify with the volume. Look at that here, boom, chunk of change right there at 343. So people are super heavy at that level. That's the highest amount of volume we're seeing. So as a better case scenario, the price comes to 343. That'd be my consideration for a long. We are seeing somewhat of a double top here, and that is slightly concerning because it could very well imply that we're going to pull back. But once more, it's a little early to tell. So I'll post a playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord to give you some perspective. But at this point, I'm interested in waiting for that area that may or may not happen. And it's okay. If I miss the opportunity, it's all well and good. I know at the end of the day, I sleep well at night knowing I recommended the better case scenario, better trading strategies, or just in general, not FOMOing into the top even if it continues to run. And yes, it does affect me sometimes. I totally feel FOMO once in a while, but I got to remember and remind myself that there's so much opportunity in the market. What's the big deal? We'll catch the next one. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite, most amazing coin in the world. You probably should check yourself before you wreck yourself if you're trading emotionally. Just some friendly advice. Other than that, that's all we got here for the moment. I'm going to post our playout chart once more. I look forward to working with you if you want to become, again, a better trader. CryptoCash.tech is a site. Thanks again as well. I got to follow with this or close out with this. We got a lot of people loving the new format. Really appreciate it. If you do like it, comment below. If you want more or want to see anything else, please let me know, of course. Be happy to consider that. But for the most part, you are awesome. You're what makes my life great. And I really appreciate working with y'all. Have a good rest of your day. We look forward to seeing the next one. Take care of yourself out there. Bye-bye.